You've said before, John, that point solutions can actually distract marketing teams.
It's the shiny object syndrome. We see all of the new things that are coming out, the new ideas, and it completely distracts me from focusing on the things that actually matter.
But if you have a strong marketing ops team that wants to build for niche use cases, you can't really do this without at least a few point solutions.
When you're sitting on a consistent data model, everything is more seamless. It's easier for your internal teams to onboard quicker. They're able to do things on their own.
But most teams end up only using just like 3 of the 56 things in the feature catalog.
We as users have not been happy with the rate of innovation for a long time.
Are we subscribing to the point solution to be innovative, or are we doing it to put a Band-Aid on something that we just neglected?
When it comes to support, everyone listening that has used a platform has submitted a ticket. Finally, they get a response. Please go to this support article to find an answer yourself.
One of the strongest arguments for point solutions. With the platform, the switching cost is so much higher.
Yeah.
Where with the point solution, they're fighting for retention every time you get on the phone with them.
What's up, everyone? Today we have the pleasure sitting down with Jonathan Kazarian, founder and CEO of Accelevents. In this episode, we debate all-in-one platforms versus point solutions. The arguments we explore include flexibility, customer support quality, contact-based pricing, interoperability, and shiny object syndrome. All that and a bunch more stuff after a super quick word from one of our awesome partners. This episode is brought to you by MoEngage and their new warehouse native CEP, which revolutionizes the way data should be seamlessly fetched, analyzed, and activated. Now you can use MoEngage Cloud Data Sync to sync your warehouse data with MoEngage and use it to segment audiences or personalize messages without any development. Just set and forget. Use MoEngage warehouse segments to create segments on your warehouse data without moving underlying events, properties, or proprietary segmentation logic, and activate them directly on MoEngage. Using warehouse data analytics, brands can also directly generate insights from their warehouse data. Your long search solution for seamless data sync, smarter segmentation, dynamic personalization, and delightful customer experiences ends here. Warehouse native CEP from MoEngage, making it easy, smart, and secure. Learn more at moengage.com.
So let's get into it. So Martech runs in cycles. Startups pop up with point solutions to solve specific pain points. A few of them take off, setting this like best of breed standard, but most of them don't make it. The ones that do often get acquired by larger platforms. Then the original founders spin out and start the next wave. It's a fascinating loop. It also creates chaos. You've said before, John, that point solutions can actually distract marketing teams from solving the real high impact problems. Let's dig into that. So what do you mean by that exactly?
Yeah. And this is, I know there's a lot of opinions on this topic, and that's why I'm excited to have this conversation. It's the shiny object syndrome, right? Like, we all spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. We see all of the new things that are coming out, the new ideas. Personally, like, I'll see something, I'll get excited about it. I'll be up till 3 a.m. playing with the thing. And it completely distracts me from focusing on the things that actually matter, right? Like focusing on our positioning, focusing on how we communicate with customers, focusing on making the core platform usable for, when I say platform, the Martech stack we work off of, usable for the rest of the company. And it's not to say that these tools aren't important and that they're not necessary or adding value, but it's easy for them to turn into distractions.
Yeah. I think it's a sound argument, and when you said that in our peer interview chats, I was just like, "Ooh, let's dig into that." And I think it'd be a fun episode to play devil's advocate here. Obviously, we've got a lot of supporters on the sponsorship side that are point solutions, so I'm going to be playing the advocate for point solutions. And throughout my career, I've built a lot of stacks that were point solutions, and still got a ton of respect for the platforms, the legacy players in the space that were kind of the incumbents for a lot of these categories. But I was trying to figure out a way to have this debate with you without it turning into like, well, it depends on the company, because ultimately that's what it kind of comes down to a lot. Like, this definition of what is adequate as a feature or a solution is super subjective, and it depends on your marketing sophistication. Are you just a vanilla marketing team? Do you have a bunch of different like custom needs? Your sales ops team? Like, my take is that if your marketing team is vanilla and really standard, then I think platforms are fine most of the time. But if you have a strong marketing ops team that wants to build for niche use cases, to power growth, like you can't really do this without at least a few point solutions in your stack. What do you think?
This is where I already disagree. When we think about the stack that we're building or the way that our customers are buying, so for context, we're an event management platform, right? In our minds, that is a category. It's a platform within the realm of Martech, right? You marketing automation platform, CRM, et cetera. But events are a standalone solution. You can't really hack that together with your marketing automation platform or your CRM. There are things that can be hacked together, right? There's different tools for doing things like capturing calendar bookings or demo requests on your website where your CRMs may have some of those solutions already. To bring it back, when we think about the core platform, the idea isn't that you don't need some of those point solutions. It's that the platform should allow you to implement those point solutions on your timeline. So there should be something there that can get you launched and moving forward with the bigger picture so that you're not delaying implementation because you got to connect 4 different applications together. And all of a sudden you're 5 minutes into a deployment and the business team's not actually using the platform for the thing that it was meant to be using it for. It should be a buy and gradually build, not a we have to do everything at once type of implementation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like the example that comes to mind, like when I said that, a lot of our supporters are point solutions,
Yeah.
is this that like you're right that like most traditional setups, like we don't want to like on HubSpot. I'm a big fan of HubSpot. I used it many times, but I'll use it as an example of like the platform here for CRM and marketing automation. Like you said, HubSpot has lead gen forms. They have like calendar booking tools, and they also have like a bunch of other but like email template builders. Let's
Mhm.
like pick those two solutions or features. There are many teams that like the basics of those are fine. Like they get by with it, no problem. But there's a lot of teams that there are some complexities and potential areas for growth where other point solutions could come in and kind of help out. So I'll give you 2 examples. On the lead gen side, like maybe they have a complex sales setup that's split up by territory. They want to show combined availability of all the reps in that territory when a lead from that region wants to book. HubSpot doesn't do any of that. Doesn't even come close to it. Like their default forms don't meet that niche use case. Revenue Hero does. Revenue Hero is a point solution, sponsor of the show. Another example is like maybe the company has 40 different languages that they're trying to cater to, and they want to translate every single email. They need to allow every team member to collaborate, make changes on the email templates, keep brand guardrails in place. HubSpot doesn't do any of that out of the box. You need to have Knack to do that. So those are like 2 examples, and I get your argument, but like for a lot of teams that get to a stage where they are gradually adding more stuff to the stack, sometimes the platform just like doesn't meet the needs for it. Like you can't do it without certain point solutions.
Yeah, I have a couple things. So I like both of your points. I have like 2 interesting like sort of like analogies. One is kind of like the iOS versus Android analogy where, you know, sometimes people like Android because you can customize a bunch of stuff, but then a lot of times the core stuff just doesn't work well. And that's why probably everybody on this call has an iPhone. I don't know. But, I love it when you buy a new Apple device like AirPods or whatever, and it just connects or works beautifully already. And I think that there's something to be said around that, sort of like the core platform of the core OS being the same. On the other hand, I will say there's sometimes like there's some specific needs like deduplication, you know,
Mhm.
that you just kind of need something to help you out. So I don't know. In this like I would say in this debate of point solutions versus point, I'm like on the fence, and I would love one of you to convince me to sway one way or the other.
Yeah. So I think you bring up a couple interesting points like email, right? Your iPhone has an email app built into it. In my case, in my bottom menu bar, I've got the Gmail app. To me, that's not a point solution. My G Suite is in another platform that I'm connecting to my iOS, which is so basically bolting 2 platforms together. Or in our case, our customers are bolting Accelevents, their event management platform, onto HubSpot or to Salesforce. But you're connecting 2 platforms that are filling that entire vertical together instead of these individual components of that. Phil, going back to one of your points, where a lot of these point solutions end up getting acquired. If you look at Salesforce, for example, they're a company where through acquisitions, it's been love Salesforce, love HubSpot, don't mean to dunk on either of them. There's my disclaimer. But there's been circumstances where third parties have been more well integrated than acquisitions have been.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I
And
knew
it all
exactly
comes
where you
down
were
to the
going when
data
you
model.
started.
And this is why I love the platform play, right? When you're sitting on a consistent data model, everything is more seamless. It's easier for your internal teams to onboard quicker. They're able to do things on their own. They're empowered. You don't have these owners of these different solutions that have to come in order to make the tool usable. And you don't have the data issue, right? Like, even if you talk about something like lead gen forms on your website, the way that you're capturing, say, UTM data or your conversion tracking data, all of that has to be mapped. And it often doesn't follow into the native way that the platform was designed for actually capturing that information.
Yeah, the data model argument is interesting. Like that one again, like it depends on the team. Like if I've got a team that has a data engineer on staff and we're a warehouse first stack, like I don't need the platform to do any attribution for me. Like I'm doing that in my own custom tools. I've got iPass set up or I've got API integrations set up with it. Like I don't really care if it's all in one platform because I own it in the warehouse. And that's where like it depends on the team because I think like your counter argument to that could be like, well, not every team is using a warehouse. Not every team has a data engineer that's surfacing marketers. And this idea of like a single data model sounds really great until it's the wrong model for your business and you're forced to figure out a way to use it. Like platforms in a sense force conformity with that argument. Like point solutions kind of adapt to whatever reality you have, but it's an interesting argument for sure.
But you're always adopting to something, right? Because the counter is now we're adopting to, frankly, job security for the person who's implemented that.
Mm.
That's a good point. I also think too, one of the other possibilities is that point solutions often solve problems that are like could have been solved with better operations and infrastructure to begin with. I think that is something that I've been thinking about. It's kind of like, oh, well, we have duplicates. Well, why didn't you set up your data sources correctly? To why are there duplicates to begin with? Like you did it wrong. Or so I think that there's something to be said around point solutions treating the symptoms rather than the root cause.
Mm.
And I like in our daily life, a lot of times we'll like people turn to like drugs or caffeine or like all these things to like get psyched up. But the core problem is you're just not sleeping well. You have to sleep. Humans need to sleep. So I don't know. That's something I've been thinking about too.
So I want to ask you, Joan, about like the pricing argument here, because like, platforms often one of the arguments is like they're really expensive and underutilized often. Like the other angle to this is like you get an all-in-one tool, it's all great, single data model, it's all in one, but most teams end up only using just like 3 of the 56 things in the feature catalog. And if you were obviously to replace that platform with 56 point solutions, for sure, it would be cheaper to have the platform. But teams don't need all 56 features and they replace the platform with like 4, 5, or 6. And the more like an all in one platform becomes, the more it becomes all for no one. Like the Seth Godin example there. But like I've run into plenty of point solutions, John, where like stacks were much less expensive than running on HubSpot. And there's like obviously it depends on the company or whatever, but I'll walk you through that example and it's kind of like niche a little bit. But we were chatting ahead of this and you were like, give me an example of like where this was less expensive. So I was at a startup. We had a fantastic organic content reach. So tons of visitors. We had a huge database of contacts for our size of company. And we moved from HubSpot marketing suite plus their CMS, and we were paying over $150K per year there. Most companies at our size at that time were probably spending less than like 50K per year because they don't have the contact database that we have. So that's kind of like the
What
niche
volume of
point.
contacts are we talking?
We're talking about like 900K, like almost
Okay.
a million database emails. So we moved from HubSpot as the suite to Ghost as our CMS. So we had all of our blog on HubSpot CMS, from like day one, tons of work to migrate that to Ghost. But Ghost is a self-hosted platform, so we were paying $250 per year to self-host with Ghost. The way to do the forms, like we were still gating a lot of that stuff, so we went with ConvertFlow, tiny little company. They're costing us about $4K per year to host all of our forms on there and push all of that data, connect it with Zapier. We're spending a lot of money with Zapier because we had a lot of volume, a lot of triggers and all that stuff. So like 12 to 15K per year just on Zapier. And so like what were we replacing email workflows with? So this is where it gets a little interesting. So we were using a customer engagement tool on the product team already to do a lot of like our product emails. And my goal is to try to figure out like, can we stretch that customer engagement tool to also cover our top of funnel content leads idea? And we're a super early customer of that customer engagement platform. So we got them to honor the legacy pricing that we had, but still with like almost 1 million emails in the database, we ended up spending like in that like 50K range. Still all in about 70K-ish per year on the point solution stack versus 150K with HubSpot. Niche example, but that's my example.
I don't think that example is applicable because you just didn't need HubSpot. Like you weren't a good fit for HubSpot. If you were, say, like ActiveCampaign, then I think that would be a more applicable example, but I think the pricing would have been a lot closer.
Because ActiveCampaign doesn't have usage-based pricing?
I haven't looked at their pricing model in a while.
Why do you think like we weren't a good fit for HubSpot? Just because we had too many emails?
It's too many marketing contacts. It's just a different business model.
That's fair actually, but like when we started with HubSpot, like it was our first tool, right? And like the price point was super affordable then, and like SEO organic got into play, and like, here we are. Now we need to do something about it because the 150K doesn't make sense. Yeah, fair enough.
But I think that's a different debate than like that is the wrong platform. And frankly, you probably didn't need a platform, right? You needed these 3 point solutions, but it doesn't sound like that was a sales-led motion where you have even the CRM object.
Yeah, so we're using closed CRM as like
Okay.
the CRM kind of attached to that. The startup was closed, so we were paying $0 for using closed.
Well,
Right, so
I
that's
think
also not factored into the pricing.
But like actually HubSpot CRM is really affordable. Like they charge you per seats versus per contacts in the database. So
Right.
last time I checked, like even if you have like 10 seats in HubSpot CRM, it's just like, I don't know, 5K per year. It's pretty affordable.
Not an enterprise, but
Well, don't want to turn this episode into HubSpot
But
pricing breakdown.
one of the reasons that we appreciate the platform side of that, though, is that we don't want the silo between marketing and sales.
Mm.
Like the way the world is moving, the whole top, middle, bottom of funnel motion, it isn't what it was 10 years ago. So looking at a contact record that starts in the marketing automation platform and then migrates into the CRM, like the model isn't always that way. And when we look at our funnel reporting, that's not how we want to think about things anymore.
Yeah, I think so. The other thing, if I put on like my Phil hat, and I'm on Phil's side now, is that I think sometimes, especially with a lot of the like legacy mainstay players of marketing technology and marketing automation, I think that we as users have not been happy with their innovation, the rate of their innovation for a long time. And John might say something like, "Well, switch platforms." That's not that easy. And sometimes we are locked in, whether it's because of technical debt or whether it's because executives just say, use Salesforce. Everybody else does. So you need to use it. And I think that that's where we start to go like, man, like we want to do something new. We want to add value. We want to do something different from our competitors. Hey, there's this point solution. It does something different. And I think that that's where I'm starting to see like why there is a case for point solutions is when the legacy players aren't innovating fast enough.
I subscribe to that argument. But Darrell, it also goes back to what you were saying before, which is like, are we subscribing to the point solution to be innovative, to try a new channel, or are we doing it to put a Band-Aid on something that we just neglected to get right on the platform side?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I think
I mean,
there's also a whole nother argument to be had around like why does that innovation stop on the platform side?
Hmm.
And I'm kind of dunking on point solutions here, but we started there. Every one of these companies did start there.
Right.
So I don't, I don't mean to be knocking on it from the perspective of all the companies that do have the opportunity to evolve into being a platform. But um, there's also the side of it, which is that this isn't to say that platforms need to pretend to be truly all in one and try to sell themselves on this narrative that, hey, we're going to be able to fix every one of those problems. Like, no, you're not. The reality is that customers are going to need point solutions for certain things. Again, let them do it on their timeline, get them launched, give them the tools they need to get started. But integrations, like this is one of our mantras on the product side. Integrations are built for customers, not for marketing.
Mm.
The integrations actually need to be there with a level of depth that makes them usable and doesn't create noise between that point solution and the platform. And by noise, I mean duplicate contacts, messy data,
Right.
inadequate tracking, whatever it might be there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Like on integrations and the whole like interoperability argument, like that's often, and I'd agree with like the platform side of this here. Like it is a lot more simple for marketing ops admin to run everything in one platform versus like have it be in four different tools when it comes to like connecting together and when it comes to like figuring out what broke. Like if something broke, you have to log into one tool and you can diagnose like one system. And if you have a point solution stack and there's like seven different tools connected and something is breaking, like you have to do QA on like seven different tools, log in. And obviously, like maybe you have better setup there, but yeah, what are your thoughts on like interoperability as like the argument here? Because like I feel like this argument for some cases is a bit dated in a sense. Like it might be true for some, it's not true for the folks like we talked about at the start that are building their stacks around the data warehouse. Like the data you need in all of your point solutions should also be in your warehouse. It's not rocket science anymore when it comes to unifying that data and deduplicating it with DBT and with Snowflake and pushing it to the tools that you need. What are your thoughts there?
Well, it's not rocket science for you, but as a Martech founder, I'm inevitably in that sort of marketing ops role within our company. Like, yes, we have other marketing ops people, but I was the first person to set things up. And again, I inherently wear that hat. So I get the requests from the team. And for me, what I want to do is empower our salespeople, our account managers, our CX team, our marketing team to do things on their own without having to tap me or
Hmm.
somebody else who is responsible for that point solution. And when they have to use a whole bunch of tools or figure out where did something come from or how do I get into this solution, it just impacts velocity.
Do you have a data team that supports marketing use cases for stuff like that?
No, we don't.
No. Do you see that as kind of future state a little bit? Like, I don't know how willing you are to share some of this stuff here, but like Darrell and I talk about like warehouse native and building stacks around that. And we realize that like we're a bit ahead of the curve versus a lot of people. Like when Darrell polled his audience on this, like what's the source of truth for you? Is it the CRM? Is it marketing automation? Is it the warehouse? Is it the CDP? And majority of people still think it's the CRM, but like us and Brinker and a bunch of other people are betting on the data warehouse. But yeah, curious your thoughts there.
Do you think, before answering that, do you think that there's a difference with a PLG or self-serve motion versus sales-led motion in answering that
Yeah.
question?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's actually often one of the comments there. Like,
yeah.
can we break up the answers on that poll by like PLG or B2B sales led versus people that, are maybe a bit more lenient towards the PLG model?
So we're sales-led,
Yeah.
we're high touch. A lot of we're an event platform, right? In-person events. Like a lot of our interactions happen in person. It's data that isn't, yeah, certainly you could put it in data warehouse or CDP or anything else, but the data goes into the CRM anyway. So for us, the CRM is
Yep, yep, yep. I think PLG sales and versus sales led is a really big difference. The data needs are different.
This episode is brought to you by our friends at Knack. I have the amazing pleasure of chatting with some of the greatest minds in marketing operations Well, you'd be shocked at how many of them have the same issues when it comes to their campaign creation process. They're dealing with things like scaling, personalization, keeping assets on brand, render testing emails, working in rigid templates, and worst of all, having to hand code emails. But many of the leaders in the space are using Knack to eliminate these headaches. Knack is a no-code email and landing page creation platform that covers initial campaign requests right until the sync to your marketing automation platform. Knack improves the whole campaign creation process by bringing the building, optimization, testing, collaboration, and also translation functions all in a single spot. So you don't have to jump around and coordinate feedback between a bunch of different people or wait on developers for very simple edits. Because at the end of the day, marketing ops folks want to focus on process and efficiency. Marketers want to focus on creativity, and Knack makes sure you get both and then some. Check them out at knack.com. That's KNAK, and tell them we sent you.
This episode is brought to you by Revenue Hero. 2 field forms. Complete context, instant scheduling. Finally, you get to pick all 3 without a single line of code. Introducing Native Enrichment by Revenue Hero. Plug in Clearbit, Crust Data, Apollo, or stack all 3. Enrich all the data you need instantly on submit. Stack your enrichment providers, waterfall your way to clarity. Determine qualification and meeting routing based on enriched information. Layer it onto your current distribution logic. Book more meetings with your qualified buyers. Get started at revenuehero.io.
I think going back to John's like original comment on, hey, point solutions distract from, the main goals. I feel like that to me is like such an underlying point. I worked at this company before, and webinars just weren't going well. And the solution that the marketers had was to switch out the webinar platform or to buy new things.
Yeah.
And this is like a very real concept. And it oftentimes just does hide the fact that there's something fundamental that's just not working well, or that's just not good. Like I think that, with something like events, I'd love to hear your take, because events are complex and sophisticated, and there's a lot that goes into great events. Like I'm not discounting the hard work that it requires, but there is something very simple about events. Is that whether it's virtual or online, is that if it's good, people will come.
Yeah.
And they will stay. And the metric for me of events going well is that people continue to come and more people come. And it's a very, very simple thing that I think so many marketers just don't really understand. And like I personally run events, and that's the North Star metric that I always think about, is like, do they show up, and do they have a good time, and do they keep on coming? I that was one of the things too that was really big on my mind when I remember, Phil, that you were running the Martech Spotlight. Like I was always thinking about that. I was thinking about the audience. I was like are they getting a lot of value out of this? And it's just that fundamental thing of like, you can't buy something to fix a fundamental problem.
No disagreement there. I think we're all on the same page with that one. But you did sort of prompt something else that I think is worth talking about, going back to that idea of like a point solution versus another platform. So in our case, a lot of our customers are purchasing us because they are a little bit siloed from, yes, events often live under marketing, but they are a little bit siloed. And either the marketing team or the marketing ops team will try to gatekeep the marketing stack from the events team. And the events team wants they need a home. They need a place to live. Like, that's the platform that they're going into every day. It's their CRM of all of their contact information, the way that they're interacting with their attendees, the comms that they're sending out, emails, push notifications, whatever it might be. And yes, all of that data needs to flow back into the CRM for doing things like attribution reporting. Maybe they do want to send emails from the CRM, but ultimately it has to be this all-encompassing platform, powerhouse for those event organizers to be able to operate on their own. Because unfortunately, the events team, they're often at the bottom of the stack when it comes to getting resources for marketing ops. And frankly, I
Totally.
think it should be the opposite because they're like the actual one that has a hard deadline. Unlike like the CEO set deadline, there's something that's actually like you're gonna have 1,200 people show up. Like things do need to work on time.
Totally. Completely agree. Completely agree.
The other argument to this, John, about point solutions versus platforms is when it comes to support. I think everyone listening that has used a platform has submitted a ticket with the CS team or the support side of the platform, and they've waited a week, 2, 3 weeks. Finally, they get a response, and it's like a vanilla, candid response, like, please go to this support article to find an answer yourself. And you already read that support article 3 times, and you're like at the same dead end you were 3 weeks ago. I've used a couple point solutions where the team is a startup. They have Slack Connect. So in my own Slack org, I can reach out to someone on Revenue Hero, and I hear within an hour or two, there's like 3 people responding to me. And if it's not something I can do today, like they're adding it to the roadmap and they're actually listening to me and it's going to be part of the product. What are your thoughts on that argument for platforms versus point solutions?
I think it's one of the strongest arguments for point solutions. And if I look at how we do, we do 24/7, 365 support, real people, no AI responses, and our training. It's not just the the software; it's a lot around our customers. What challenges do they have? What problems are they trying to solve? Because the events industry is very unique, but also very flexible. And what happens when you have these big platforms is all the training becomes around how to use the software, how to answer questions from the software, where to get resources. You say that that request goes in and it takes a week to get a response because it gets routed to the CX rep from that product line, who then has to kick it back to the product manager, who has to ask the engineer a question. Then it goes back round robin, and that doesn't happen with point solutions because it's not just that they understand the software, it's that they also understand the business use case that you're trying to solve for. And even if somebody's been at a company like HubSpot since pre-IPO, since inception, it's so large now that they're not going to know everything. And when you have a horizontal product where it can cover everything from a pizza shop to a multi-billion-dollar SaaS company, the use cases are also so different. So you don't have the industry insight to be able to solution engineer the same way either.
I think the point solutions, a lot of times the teams can be hungrier too. Like I think that oftentimes they're playing the role of the underdog.
Yeah, they're
And
scrappier. They want to
You
keep
can't
the
hide.
lights on.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of them too, and I've worked at small companies, I worked at big companies, and I will say, you know, being part of like a scrappy team that's all very mission driven and like you can quickly see the results of your impact is very rewarding and very motivating. And each call I think you can makes a bigger difference where maybe with some companies with 1,000 reps that are answering the phone, it's kind of like, eh. So I will say that there is something to be said around the attitude and the mentality of the point solutions. That could be a big deal.
Definitely. I mean, there's also, with the platform, the switching cost is so much higher.
Yeah.
Where with the point solution, they're fighting for retention every time you get on the phone with them. The other element of it is that like there's a culture that comes along with whatever it is that you're serving. So in our case with the events industry, I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but because our customers are preparing for this very discrete point in time activity where people are showing up on thousands of people are showing up on site, that sense of urgency that our customer has to be matched by our customer experience team. So there's a culture around that as well.
Yeah, I think too, you can like oftentimes just naturally, and maybe your team does this, John, but I find that with point solutions and startups, your team almost becomes like this consulting group for the customer.
Yeah.
And it's like, with a big company, you have to pay for that. Like you have to pay for professional services. It's like $250, $300 an hour, and they'll nickel and dime you. But with point solutions, oftentimes or startups, maybe not just point solution, but with startups, their team is like invested in your success, and they'll start to advise you not only on like how to use your tool, but like they'll often advise you. Like me and Phil met this company one time, and we realized that their services weren't that much from a technology perspective, but they were literally doing like business consulting for their clients. And our theory was that's why they're doing so well. They're literally helping customers in more ways than just from a technical standpoint.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is because that's every one of those conversations is an opportunity for them to learn, and because they're smaller, they're able to actually translate that into product enhancements.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The other element is the mission-driven component, right? Like I was telling you guys before, I got on a call 9 a.m. this morning with a prospect. Our team knows that I really, really like marketing ops, and Andrew, one of the people on our sales teams, is like, they want to chat about Salesforce integration because of an issue they're having with the Salesforce integration with one of our competitors. So I get on the call and they're like, so why is the CEO on the call? And Andrew starts giggling. And I'm like, because I just love these conversations. Like, it's fun for me to do that solutions engineering on the fly. And again, it goes back to that mission driven element. Like, you build a team and a culture around people that want to partner with you and solve that problem.
I love it. I think it's also cool that you have such empathy for the role because you wore that hat in the earlier days. You were the person like setting stuff up, and
Still
I
I
want,
am.
yeah,
But
it's still
I hope I
that's
never,
awesome.
like, as soon as I remove myself from that, then the empathy is going to die.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
that's totally
advising,
fair.
I don't know if you know, like the All In podcast. They run their events on our platform. I'm also an advisor to them. And one of the reasons I do that is because I need to get my hands dirty. Like, I need to be in the realm of
Mhm.
hosting events like I used to, large scale events, using our product to actually do it, to go through the same things our customers are going through myself, not just hearing it from our customers.
How much do you think the role or the adequacy of the person in marketing ops has to play in the point solutions versus platform debate? Like one of the arguments for platforms is that you don't want to build this Frankenstack or like a bloated tech stack with a
Yeah.
bunch of disparate tools all kind of connected together. It's like a spaghetti mess of a diagram. And that's how like a lot of people paint point solutions, but for me, like bloated tech stacks aren't really a tool problem. It's more of a marketing ops or a leadership problem. You need a systems person owning and adding the purging of tools. Like I've run plenty of point solutions that were lean and documented, but I've seen plenty of scenarios where it wasn't the case and it was broken and it was kind of a Frankenstack. But do you think like part of this argument is actually more about the person kind of owning some of this stuff?
Let me kick the question back to you. Do you think that there's a minimum number of people that have to be an owner of each of those point solutions? Because what's the business risk when there's a single owner for those point solutions?
Yeah, I think there would be a minimum as the company scales. Like if you've got a point stack of 10 plus tools and you've got that all built on a single marketing ops person
Yeah,
supporting a company of 500, you're doing yourself a disservice for sure.
And you're going to be screwed if they leave.
that's that's the concern, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's fair. And yeah, like I think documentation is a big part of the argument here. Like when you are smaller and more nimble, you're moving fast, and you don't have time to document a lot of stuff. And like Darrell, you just said, like if that person ends up leaving and they haven't documented stuff, like whose fault is that? Is it the leader on the marketing side who that marketing ops person is reporting to and they didn't do the documentation? They didn't ask them to do the documentation. Like I've been in roles where I was moving too fast. I didn't like have time to
Oh, we all
document.
have.
Is that my fault? Is that my boss's fault? Like who owns like the notion of documentation when it comes to like
Well,
building a stack?
I think there's another problem there, which is that you don't know what the right answer is in the first couple of months of implementation because you're going to
Yeah.
change things so many times. So, like, what's the forcing function to go back and document it at that point? The other side of it is that those things aren't static, right? Like, even with our integration with HubSpot for the contacts endpoint, they just rolled out V3 of that API. And we have to maintain those things and update that, even if you're using an iPaaS solution. So, um, yeah, there's ownership on the maintenance side too. And then you could be in a situation where, okay, you've got these two competing point solutions that need to be maintained at the same time, but you have one point of failure, that one individual who knows both of those.
Yep. I think when it comes to documentation, I'm hoping it gets better, in the age of AI, I suppose. And, a lot of people, from what I've seen, have been using, platforms to record their screen while they do certain things, while they do setup, while they do. So I think the documentation can get easier. I think that it's also just like a mentality thing. When if you have a good culture of documentation, it makes it actually enables your team to go faster because you can bring people along with you faster. You can hire people to replace you. You can hire, more junior folks that can learn. So I think that people forget that there's more value in documentation than just um, in case someone leaves, we know what's going on. So I think it's like a culture thing that people really need to understand.
One thing we talk a lot about on the show, John, is this idea of like in marketing ops, the best ops pros are people that are super curious. Like they're constantly learning, they have a growth mindset. Part of that is like having a bit of shiny object syndrome, like always being hungry and checking stuff out and playing around with it. But also playing the role of being the grumpy ops person on the team who has to often say no to people and wrangle people back down to earth and say like, that's a really cool idea, and you don't want to squash that curiosity and encourage them to keep learning other but you have to say like, this is the we're focused on. We can't purchase this tool right now. This other thing in HubSpot is good enough for us right now. What are your thoughts there? Like, how do you kind of like say no to some of that stuff and block out shiny object syndrome without like being known as the grumpy ops person who's like always saying no to
I think you nailed it. Number one is curiosity. Like if you're hiring a marketing ops person, number one is curiosity. Number two is the capacity to say no. It's as simple as that. Um, there's a difference between, hey, this tool is really cool. I'm going to spend 4 hours tonight playing with it, learning it inside and out, and then making the decision on whether or not I'm going to say no. Like, get your hands dirty with the tool, but don't get the rest of your stack dirty until you're confident that that is the right direction to go and that the incremental improvement that that's going to have on the rest of your stack is sufficient to justify um, the ongoing maintenance that it's like any other product management role. You're you're constantly you're constantly in this decision of build versus buy, right? Where to implement pre-built solutions into your existing product versus building from scratch. And then the other side is every time you say yes to a feature, it's not the whatever 100 story points or 3 weeks of dev time to build the feature. It's the 1 hour of maintenance that we have to account for on a go forward basis for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, such a good point. The whole build versus buy debate is a whole other like sub debate that we could go down on, but that's
Yeah.
probably
But I
a
think about
separate
it the same way.
episode.
Like you're building your as a marketing ops person, you're building your stack and
Yeah.
you're either building within your existing platform or you're buying some third party that has some specialty that can come in and bolt on and do that thing better, arguably better than whatever it is that you were able to hack together in your platform. And yes, they're going to continue to innovate on that. Hopefully in the same direction that their product vision aligns with your needs. Can't guarantee that, but hopefully that's the case. And that's one of the things you'll flesh out in the evaluation process.
Yeah. I like what you said about the focus and about how, sometimes if we build something, we're gonna have to maintain it forever, and it's essentially like a weird version of tech debt or maintenance debt. I don't know what it's
Yeah.
called, but um, yeah, I think it's really tough. It's because I'm a big advocate of focus, but what I really like what you said around like let's do some of the legwork to understand what are the choices that we're making, and like you know will this tool that we buy or that we build actually produce results. And I think that sometimes, especially in marketing ops, and I've been guilty of this, sometimes we can just say no by default, and it's just like, no, like there's a new thing. No, I don't want to look at it. We're 100% focused on this. And I think every now and then though, something does come, whether it's a solution or a tool or a new way of working that does change everything, and it does level up the entire team. So I struggle with that. I struggle with, trying to find that balance of like keeping our heads down and focused, but also being open to new ideas that could kind of change the way that we work. I don't know if that resonates with you, John, or you
Well,
disagree.
are you saying no because of the tech debt it's creating, or are you saying, or are you actually evaluating the business opportunity and then saying and weighting that against the tech debt?
I I think that like for example, at work, like I'm investigating new tools that could um I wonder if my team's gonna listen to this, but I'm investigating new tools that could like improve the personalization of our campaigns
Mhm.
and like increase the speed in which we do A/B testing. And a lot of people on my team are like, we don't even have time for that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, okay, I get it. I love how focused you are, but especially like today with everything changing, I feel like it's important to know what kind of capabilities are out there and if it could really improve the work that we're doing.
And that's where the curiosity comes into play, but it's not jumping on everything. Like,
That's it. Yep.
right? Look at the trends on LinkedIn over like the past 3 years, right? You've got, I think I put a couple of them in the notes here, but like every 3 months, 2 months, there's another thing that comes up. And dark social, PLG, demand gen over lead gen, RevOps, Web3, enrichment, AI SDRs, SEO versus AEO. Like,
GTM engineering.
yeah, exactly, right? Every 3 months there's something else, and there's a dozen products for each of those things. And I think it's
True.
worth being curious. Try 3 of them every time there's a new cycle, but you don't necessarily need to jump on every one of those things because you
Mm.
don't have the capacity and your marketing team doesn't have the capacity to actually run with it. So like be willing to try things, but you don't have to try everything. And it may not make sense for your business model. Some of those things make sense for PLG motions, some of them make sense for sales-led motions. And it's easy to get excited about something because every LinkedIn influencer is talking about it. The other side of this question that we didn't talk about is, as a marketing ops person, when does adding another platform or another product actually mean it's going to reduce the work on you because it's going to become a self-serve product? And again, event management tools are a great example of this. When a company that was hacking together their events through their CRM onboards a platform like Accelevents, the event people stay out of the hair of the marketing ops team. So there's
Mm.
actually another win there. So that's another thing that you should be considering when thinking
Mm.
about building your stack.
Yeah, sometimes adding a tool doesn't mean always adding complexity and more time. Sometimes it's that you're doing manually already or breaking things together that's gonna like save you a bunch of time.
Right. It saves you a bunch of time because you're having to build it for these other internal teams,
Right.
or those other internal teams are coming in and breaking your stack, or they're having to add custom objects to your CRM
Mhm.
to support their business use case and pulling data like meal choice for an event that you just don't need in your CRM, right? That's just noise.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Yeah, time for like two more questions, John. I'm curious to like let you plug the product a little bit, like talk about the customers, the stuff that you've learned. Like you've been doing this for quite a bit of time now. I know the platform wasn't the same in the early days. Talk about like the journey there and the marketing ops folks that are so close to your heart.
Yeah. I guess the reason marketing ops is so fun for me is, first of all, marketing ops people build really cool products. Like we talked about these different cycles every 3 months. These cycles are always fun and interesting to dig into. And the marketing ops people tend to build products. Like you have marketing ops people split off from some company and go launch their own startup, but they're like actually building products to solve a need. It's like need first as opposed to where you get like an engineer who launches a company and it's like, oh, this really new cool technology is available. Let's see how we can turn this into a product. Where it's like you're building a product around a solution, not around a problem. So I just like that angle of where marketing ops people come from. As for us as a company, yeah, we just hit 10 years in business in January. So we've grown quite a bit. We're a little bit over 60 folks now, and have grown to work with some of the largest companies, GitLab, Zapier, IEEE on the association side. So these companies, they could be running 3 events a year, or sometimes even one event, up to 800, 1,000 events per year. Some of those events are 40,000 plus people, so it really runs the gamut. We certainly did have that move to virtual, as did many others in 2020 to kind of 2022. But today we're about 85% focused on in-person and hybrid events.
Love it, love it. Yeah, and so one of the things that I had a question on, and I really did mean it when I said like I enjoyed using the platform to run the workshop. And I don't know if you like, but I'd love for you to like walk me through this because when Mike first showed it to me, I was like, dude, why do I need this? I was like, why can't I just do this on Zoom?
Yeah.
And then I got into it. I enjoyed the features, but I'd love to let you tell me, like for you to actually like kind of share. Like if that was if you were Mike and I'm Darrell trying to run a workshop and like with breakout rooms and all that kind of stuff, like why not just use Zoom?
So Zoom, massive company, right? At the end of the day, though, like in my mind, they're a point solution, right? Like same with like DocuSign, another massive company, but they're here for one specific thing. And events, in my opinion, are a category. They're a platform where you're interacting with those folks a lot. The communication pre and post event. There's a lot of lead up to it. There's the managing the event program throughout the year. There's the in-person and the virtual experiences. And then there's all the different technology components that are part of that. Mobile app for attendees, the badge printing experience for on-site. All of these things are not, frankly, most of them are not even available as point solutions. But part of the reason for that is that data model it's not designed to work that way. And in this case, you're creating an experience for an attendee that has all of these different touch points, online touch points, in-person touch points that are in person, but through staff. And you have to ensure that you have that consistent experience throughout the length of that journey, and that you're able to capture all of that data and act on that data and inevitably send it back to your CRM or your data warehouse. So it's really about bringing all those experiences together. And there are some companies in our space that have grown through acquisition, and it's created some of those more disconnected experiences, both for the attendees, but also the event organizers. And I guess to go back to your question, like, why is that necessary over Zoom? If you're talking about just hosting a webinar, we have a number of customers that do that with our platform. Sometimes they want it for the branding elements. They want it for the more unique experience and some more the granularity that it can offer their attendees. But if that's all you're looking for is just a webinar, there are plenty of point solutions out there. It's for folks that are looking to really think about that holistic, where do events fall within our marketing journey.
Super
Agreed.
cool. Makes a ton of sense. Appreciate the breakdown there, John. The conversation has flown by. I appreciate you joining us today and playing one side of the debate hat. I think it's super fun. We got one last question for you. You're a decade-long founder, CEO, well-traveled speaker, respected leader, LinkedIn top voice. You got the badge on LinkedIn. You're also a father, and you have another one on the way. You're also a frequent sailor and you work out all the time. Like, one question we ask everyone on the show, with all the stuff that you have going on in life, like, how do you remain happy and successful in your career, and how do you find balance between all of those things while staying happy?
Let's say ex-sailor. There's a lot of things that you do, hobbies that you do
Yeah.
less when you become a dad, but that's okay. It's a good thing. I guess we've probably all seen these quotes around like the number one thing that drives happiness is growth, right? It's like forward movement. And as long as I'm continuing to feel like I'm progressing in life, in business, in health, then that keeps me happy. So as simple as
Short
that.
answer, but makes a ton of sense. Easier said than done though sometimes, but I like the simplicity there.
Yeah, I mean, look, there can always be setbacks, but I think at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like, you have the capacity to drive a lot of that, and like sticking with it. We banged on point solutions for an hour. Accelevents started as a point solution, and that was over 10 years ago. And we continue to push forward and grow and recognize that the category has the capacity and is very much a platform in itself. And that's the direction that we pushed forward and grew into. And again, it's that continued growth in every element of life.
Love it. Appreciate your time, John. This is super fun. We'll link out to Accelevents and all the content you're building around supporting marketing ops folks and field marketers and all the event folks in the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is fun.
Thanks, John.